Are you planning to renovate your kitchen and looking for decoration tips, as well as practical advice for carrying out the renovation? Pay attention because you're watching the right video. Grab a pen and paper because I'm going to share with you right now in this video 15 items, 15 tips and ideas that you can implement in your kitchen renovation. So you can have a functional kitchen, a beautiful, up-to-date and modern kitchen. Hey guys, how are you doing? All good. I'm Edipo the Architect, and in this video, this content is to help you not make mistakes when decorating your kitchen. Don't do any kind of work, job, or execution that you'll regret later, okay? This is very important too. Some of them here you will completely agree with me. Write it down, grab a pen and paper, and rewind the video. It will help you. Renovating your kitchen, building, or wanting something new? To give, for example, an upgrade to your kitchen. These 15 simple ideas that I'm going to share with you right now will help you a lot. First tip, guys, have a backsplash made of the same material as your countertop. Imagine that you have your countertop in a white granite, that stellar white, a white quartz, and so on. You extend your sink's backsplash material up the wall, replacing a small backsplash and wall covering. So look how interesting this is here. In fact, if you do the math, it's actually affordable. It's actually a good value for money. Why should we use the full front panel on that countertop of ours? Imagine your sink countertop with white stellar granite or quartz. Something like that, okay? We're not going to talk about the material itself here, but let's talk about the style, the design you'll have on your front panel. So you bring in your countertop, your beautiful stone, nice, and then instead of just having that little backsplash of 10 or 12 centimeters, you take the backsplash all the way up using the same material as the stone, so you'll have your stone and the backsplash going all the way up there. Aesthetically, it looks better. You won't have that raised detail there, that little step from the backsplash, okay? Aesthetically, it's nicer. It gives your kitchen countertop more presence. Another thing that's also interesting for you to consider carefully and see if it's really going to look good or not. It depends on the material. Some countertops are very expensive per square meter, so is making a backsplash really worth it? Now, if you're going to use an average price, a base price here for more common materials like granite, for example, or quartz, compared to buying a porcelain tile, the mortar, the grout, the labor for the porcelain tile installer, and then you bring that into the marble shop's budget, you'll see that it ends up being about the same. Let's put it that way. The same amount you would spend to cover this surface, this wall of your sink with porcelain tile. It's the same amount you would invest in having. Choose a full backsplash on your countertop by the sink instead of a small one. Between the countertop and the upper cabinet there, usually we always have the upper cabinet. So the first option here, the first tip I want to share with you is, instead of using a small backsplash, let's try to use a full backsplash there. And aesthetically it will look nice, and suddenly it might cost the same as putting in porcelain tiles. Second item here, second tip I want to bring to you, leave the correct space. On your baseboard, imagine that when you're washing dishes or preparing some food, the tip of your foot keeps hitting that baseboard. So that can't happen. You need to leave enough space for everyday use. This tip here is a functional tip. You will feel this difference in your daily life, using your kitchen, making food, washing dishes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're there leaning against the counter at your sink counter. And the baseboard, some people call it the counter base. I like to call it baseboard. It's not deep. It doesn't have an ideal depth between the end of your cabinet and its beginning. This baseboard is usually made of masonry. And in front of it, some people, some decorators, like to use the same material as the countertop stone. I prefer using the same material as the floor. If you use porcelain tile, make the baseboard with matching porcelain tile. I think it looks better aesthetically, but it needs to have some depth. You can't finish the baseboard flush, leveled with your furniture, because when you go to wash your dishes or prepare some food, the tip of your shoe, your foot, will keep hitting there, and that's going to bother you. It can even cause back pain. So this is actually a tip, ergonomically speaking, a health tip for your back. So you need to leave a certain depth in your baseboard. Edipo, what would be the ideal measurement? What I use in my projects is 10 centimeters of depth. When the furniture ends here, then I set the baseboard back 10 centimeters, no problem. Even if your foot is about 48 or 50 in size, you still won't hit the tip of your baseboard. So this is a tip for execution. When you're doing the project, when you're making the baseboard for your countertop, pay attention to this because it will work really well for your daily routine in your kitchen. Recessed handle in the door itself, in your own carpentry, whether it's on your cabinet doors, on the drawer, or on your overhead furniture, like in your cupboard, right? Using a recessed handle. Have you seen one angled at about 45 degrees like this? On the door itself, when you go to pull it, we don't have a handle. For example, in aluminum, all the way across the door, which I don't like aesthetically. It's not like I'm going to tell you, take it out, remove it. No, if you have it, there's no problem, okay? Now, in a new project where you hired me to execute, to do your project, I would recommend you use a recessed handle in the door itself, in the drawer itself, okay? Aesthetically, if you pick beautiful carpentry and a nice color, then cover it with handles. It ruins the look. Then whether you like it or not, there will be a break in the aesthetics of your carpentry's decoration. So, the recessed handle directly on the door or drawer is a tip I bring you that's very functional and also aesthetically pleasing. There are other models of recessed handles as well. Suddenly, you set the cabinet, the overhead cabinet in your kitchen, back a little and let the door stick out a bit. Then you pull it right there. It's another style of handle too, but this recessed handle is really cool. If you do the math on what you would spend on a handle model you like, with this model here, it might end up costing about the same. So that's another tip. Another tip I want to share with you here. Use the recessed handle in the carpentry itself, in the door you have on your drawer, instead of especially putting a full-length handle across the whole thing. The LED in the cabinet is really cheap, guys. It won't increase your cost or your budget in your carpentry project. In fact, if you already have your carpentry done and want to put this LED in your cabinet, right under your overhead cabinet, it looks really cool and it's another lighting option. Are you renovating and hired a carpenter to make the custom furniture for your kitchen? Don't forget to tell the guys who are doing the carpentry for you that you want a little LED under your overhead cabinet to light up exactly that wall above your sink countertop. Imagine that our first item here was the full backsplash. We have the countertop material and it goes up there. There's no backsplash. And then you have an LED in that cabinet above, which will bathe your cabinet in light. It looks really beautiful, okay? Including a small LED in the project won't cost you anything. If you ask the carpenter, they might even give it to you as a gift. If you close the whole project with the carpenter, and it's really cool, it looks really nice. It's another lighting option for you if you really like spending time in the kitchen, making all kinds of food, if you enjoy cooking. This is a type of lighting that you'll use a lot in your daily life, so think carefully about having this little LED. Edipo, I already have my cabinet here. How can I get this little LED here? I'll leave the link for this LED strip that you can plug directly into the outlet here in the description for you. All right, no power supply needed, just plug it into the outlet. If you have a nearby outlet, even hidden in the closet, you can use the LED strip. It uses double-sided tape. Just stick and plug it in. You have this option to have lighting on that wall, below your cabinet, lighting up your countertop. Having a wet area that's a bit larger than the traditional, than the conventional one, that really makes things easier for us in our daily use. Using the countertop, washing dishes, washing food, putting the dish rack there is also very interesting. Obviously, this tip I'm giving you here about having a wet area on your sink countertop is for those who have a large sink, a large countertop. If you have a small space on your sink, you'll have to work with the wet area within the limits of the basin itself, maybe just a little bigger, and that's it, right? Now, if you have the option and a large countertop, why not increase the size of the wet area? What is the wet area? You already know, but I'll repeat and show it to you. The wet area is that slightly lower area that surrounds our sink. Exactly so that when I'm washing dishes, washing food, or doing anything on top of my sink, on my countertop, this wet area It won't, for example, reach my cooktop. It won't reach any bowl or anything that's in the dry area. So it's important to have a slightly larger wet area, okay? And for left-handed people, you might want to put the dish rack on the right side if you don't have a built-in rack on your countertop or sink, whether it's built into the stone or a traditional one like I have at home. It's really nice to have a slightly larger wet area on your sink countertop. Again, this is only for those with a large countertop. If your space is small, especially by the sink, this won't work. But if you're renovating, building, upgrading, or changing your countertop, think about this. Having a slightly larger area, this wet area on your sink countertop. Now I want to talk to you about the layout of your kitchen. You've probably heard about the triangle layout, right? Using the cooktop, sink, and refrigerator is very functional in our kitchen. I want to bring this up to explain it better. You may have already heard some professionals say that the perfect layout or the ideal layout for a kitchen is to have a triangle shape. What is a triangle shape, triangle layout in a kitchen? It's having the cooktop here, the refrigerator here, and your sink on this side here. In other words, cooktop, sink, refrigerator. They have to be in a triangle. But that's an idea that in our day-to-day design work, especially for those who live in apartments, doesn't work. There's no space. It doesn't fit or work. The layout is tight. The space for our kitchen is limited, so you won't be able to implement that. So what I say is this would be an interesting idea to use in large kitchens. Now imagine me here and you. We have an apartment where on the sink wall there will be cooktop, sink, then a little bit of dry area, refrigerator. So everything on the same countertop. The ideal would be to have this layout in a triangle, okay? To make your daily life easier, your everyday use in your kitchen. If you don't have it, don't worry about what others say like, oh, my kitchen didn't turn out well. Oh, my kitchen didn't turn out nice because it doesn't have a triangle layout. It doesn't look like what I saw on the internet and all that. Don't worry about it. Worry about making the most out of the usable space you have in your kitchen. And set aside this idea of a triangle layout in your kitchen for a bit, okay? Use what you have. Try to improve and perfect the spaces you have there. If the cooktop is here, you have your wet area there, right next to your sink, and the fridge is in the corner. And it's working for you, it's turning out well, you can use your kitchen perfectly. Okay, there's no problem at all. This idea of using a triangle layout is only for when we have a lot of space and when we include this idea in the project for the client. And the client agrees too. If you hire me but say, Edipo, I don't like the triangle idea, why does the sink have to be here, the cooktop has to be on this side, and the fridge here? Am I going to keep spinning around here like a fool, like an idiot? No? Okay. So do what works for you, setting aside this idea here that many times when we design a kitchen doesn't work. Tile only on the sink wall, which is really cool. What I've been using a lot in my projects is putting porcelain tiles only on the wall where the sink goes. Or maybe the cooktop. Pay attention because this is also a way to save money in your kitchen, all right? In my current projects, I really make a point of giving tips and ideas to my clients. Only put the covering like porcelain tile or stone on the wall behind the sink, okay? For example, where the sink, cooktop and stove are, on that wall we use the covering, whether it's porcelain tile, granite itself, or whatever. Now, covering the entire kitchen with porcelain tile, with a stone, I don't like that. It's not for me. The idea is to make the space as clean as possible, as light as possible. Edipo, you're saying that? But what about using that paint on the other walls, okay? Kitchen, pay attention, think with me here. Kitchens usually have a lot of cabinets, a lot of cupboards, right? So that kind of eliminates the need to have tiles on those other walls. Another thing, if I just told you that we should only have tiles on the sink wall, why put them on the other walls? Then comes the idea of using paint. But the paint will stain or get dirty. You can use a water-based epoxy paint, which is very good, easy to clean and very resistant. And for the kitchen wall, which are just a few walls that will actually show because of the cabinets, a small can of epoxy paint is inexpensive. And one can is enough to paint the other walls. So it's an idea, okay? It's a suggestion that I want to show and bring to you here. Have the covering, whether it's porcelain tile or some ceramic you like, only on the sink wall, leaving the other walls free. Cabinetry without a mirror or glass. You know that overhead cabinet that sits above the countertop of our sink? Imagine if you have that, a mirror, right? With the glass, the mirror in that cabinetry. I want to bring you another perspective now. Look, I brought this tip, this idea, this item here in previous videos that I asked you about, okay? Guys, what do you think? Would you use the mirror on that overhead door in your cabinet, in your kitchen? I got 90% of messages here, responses to this video saying no. Look at that, it's hard to clean, it gets dirty really easily. Any frying we do already splatters and makes it really dirty. We have to keep cleaning it constantly because it shows the dirt more, right? 90% of those who responded said that they wouldn't use mirrors on these overhead cabinet doors of our closet. 10% said, no, I would use it, I like it, I enjoy it. So it's an opinion that I'd like to know from you. Would you use mirrors on these overhead doors in your kitchen? I wouldn't, okay? I'll be honest with you here. I'll say it again. If you hired me to design a project for you today, for your kitchen, with the cabinetry, I wouldn't use doors with glass or mirrors. On that upper part there, on the lower part, we usually don't use them anyway. But on the upper part, I wouldn't put it there either precisely because it's not an item, not a type of situation that's very functional in daily life. Imagine if I put it there and a year later you complain, it gets dirty so easily. You could have just added a door or cabinetry. So, I'd like to hear your opinion here about this item. Would you use mirrors on your cabinet doors in your kitchen or not? Undermount sink, this, guys, is a must-have if you want to have a countertop, right? Your functional sink countertop has to have an undermount sink. This was also another question I asked you in previous videos. Which sinks would you use in your kitchen? Undermount, below our countertop, our material, flush with the countertop, or a drop-in sink. The undermount sink got 95% positive responses, saying yes, you would use it. The drop-in sink was basically the one that came in last place there. And the flush mount sink was also nice, but it has a price depending on the model. The sink that's flush with the countertop has to be the most expensive, okay? Among these three here, undermount, drop-in, and flush mount, all right? But think with me. Let's just have an exchange of opinions here. I'm talking to you here, and you answer me in the comments. Imagine having a drop-in sink in your daily life. It will create that slight bump there, that little ridge we have on our sink. And then pulling water into the sink is a hassle, right? It makes cleaning harder, you know? A little bit of dirt builds up around there on the edge of your sink. The undermount or flush mount sinks don't have this problem. So, what we're talking about here, and I want you to understand this, okay? It's not that I'm telling you to never use a drop-in sink. If you hired me for the project, I wouldn't use it. I'd use a flush mount or undermount sink instead. Now, it's not that you can't use it. If you like this model, there's no problem at all. But for everyday use, you'll agree with me. You're going to have a little more work to clean and maintain your countertop. Water filter. That traditional filter we have should be on the wall, not on top of your sink countertop. Having a water filter in your kitchen is natural. It's normal for us to have one. I have a water filter at home. Some people put the filter directly on the faucet. Many like it, but many don't. I'd like to know your opinion. Are you one of those who prefers the traditional filter, the one we always have, or a filter on the faucet? I'd like to hear your opinion, but what's the tip I want to share with you here? It's normal to have a water filter in your kitchen. But in my opinion and in my projects, I always try to put it on the wall, never on the countertop. Okay? Only if there's no other way, only if there's no option. If you're going to lose a lot of space and your overhead cabinet space is already limited, then fine, you leave it on your countertop. But other than that, always on the wall. Keep your countertop free. That way you can clean or do anything on your countertop without worry. The filter on the wall is already well fixed, really nice. There are situations where you can even make a little wooden box to hide that little hose and the outlet behind it. I've done that before on a similar project. So, my tip and my idea, are you going to install the filter? Are you planning it? Are you remodeling your kitchen? Be sure to install the filter water outlet and power outlet there so it can be plugged into the wall. Never on the countertop. Now, if you already had your kitchen, if you bought an apartment or a house and you're not going to renovate it now, there's no way around it. You have to leave it on the countertop there. Still, you can use brackets to mount the filter on the wall and keep your countertop clear. Here's a really cool and very practical tip for your daily kitchen routine. A trash can on your sink, countertop, right there in your kitchen. Would you use it? I don't like it and wouldn't recommend it for a new project. A lot of clients, when we're working on a project, ask me, Edipo, don't forget my little trash can, okay? Should the trash can be placed in the wet area or the dry area of the countertop? Pay attention to this tip I'm about to give you. The little trash can, have you decided you want a trash can on your sink countertop? All right, okay, no problem. In my opinion, it should stay in the dry area, never in the wet area. That's my opinion. If there's no way, if you really have to and you need to put it in the wet area, that's fine. Now, if the project allows and it's possible, always put the little trash can in the dry area. But I'm one of those people who don't like having the trash can on the countertop, okay? That's my personal opinion. If you hired me to do a project, I would tell you, look, let's not put the trash can here on our countertop, okay? We can't keep a large trash can on the countertop, only a small one would work, okay? Second, I don't think it's very hygienic to keep a small trash can on the counter. And I'm not criticizing you if you have one, for God's sake, okay? If you have a little trash can on your sink countertop, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that in a project I'm going to do, I wouldn't put one. I prefer to put a trash can, for example, in two situations, the regular floor one, the traditional kind, where you step on it and so on, or a trash can built into the cabinet itself, which is also very common. Now, on top of my countertop, I don't like it. I'm not a fan, but I'd like to hear your opinion. Would you put a little trash can on your sink countertop, on your new stone that you're going to install? Reply with, Edipo, yes, I'd use the trash can on my counter. Edipo, no, I agree with you. It has to be that traditional trash can, either floor standing or cabinet type. The outlet is 220 volts. You have no idea how much of a difference it makes to have a 220 outlet in your kitchen. For us who live here in São Paulo, I live here in São Paulo. Here we have 127 and 220 volts, okay? Some places in Brazil only have 220, so all equipment there uses 220. Northeast, that's more common, even in the south. Now here in the southeast, it's very common for us to use 127 volts for all the outlets in our house. When we're working in the kitchen, think about how important it is to have at least one 220 volt outlet on your kitchen counter. Even if all your kitchen appliances are 127 volts, but leave at least one outlet. You know, that little outlet, even if it's over there next to the fridge, tucked away in the corner and all. But at least leave one 220 volt outlet in your kitchen with a general purpose socket there and all, so that you have that option. Because if you ever need to use some device, some equipment that only works on 220 volts, a powerful appliance, something like that, you already have it, okay? Sometimes I realize I didn't leave any 220 volt outlets here. So, making the modification will cause a bit of trouble. It could even lead to demolition. So, are you already renovating your kitchen, already working on the electrical part? Go ahead and ask the electrician, hey, leave a 220 volt outlet there for me, just in case I need it, right? That's a great tip for you too. Satin finish porcelain tile on the floor. Okay, I'm in favor of using porcelain material, including satin finish on our kitchen floor. I've already gotten several questions from you. Oedipus, do you recommend using vinyl on my kitchen floor? Oedipus, do you recommend using polished flooring, porcelain, or any polished ceramic on our kitchen floor? I don't think so, okay? I wouldn't recommend you use vinyl flooring in the kitchen or polished porcelain tile in your kitchen. I'm one of those people who like to design and recommend materials to the client. Always porcelain tile for the floor, okay? Okay, always porcelain tile. And in the kitchen and bathrooms too, just to add, also in the laundry room, use satin finish, okay? For those of you who can't tell the difference between polished and satin, it's simple. Polished is shiny, satin isn't, it's matte. What difference does that make in your daily life? It's a matter of safety. Satin gives you a little more grip, you feel safer walking on it. It won't be as slippery, to put it more clearly. With polished surfaces, if they get wet, they become more slippery. That's natural. Let's leave the polished one for the wall, for porcelain tiles on the wall. But for the floor, porcelain tiles and especially satin ones. Functional lighting in neutral white. You need to have centralized lighting with the main fixture using neutral white. Do you want to use warm white, the warm white lighting, which is the more yellowish one, for your kitchen? There's no problem at all. You can use it. If you like it and want to use it, there's no problem at all. Go ahead now. In the current projects I do, I always recommend my clients to use neutral white on the kitchen ceiling, okay? To make the environment brighter and more pleasant for them to use in their daily life. And especially the kitchen, guys. We need to have a main functional lighting, whether it's recessed fixtures, longer ones, or LED strips, but it has to light up the space. It has to be functional lighting. I walk into my kitchen, I flip the switch, and it has to be well lit. Your kitchen is a place where you need to pay attention. You'll be cooking food, cutting food, cleaning, so you need to have functional lighting. And my tip for you is to use neutral white lighting, okay? And a good light fixture with good strong lighting capacity. Turn it on. That's the one for daily use. Can you have spotlights in your kitchen? Yes, you can. Can you have a light strip? Yes, you can. Pendant lights above the counter are fine. You can have several types of lighting, but the main lighting, the big fixture that will light up everything, that one can't be missing. And finally, guys, the faucet. I want to talk to you now about two models, okay? I'm in favor of that cleaner looking faucet, but there are a lot of people who like the gourmet faucet. Before we talk about this last item here, the faucet specifically, some of the items we've seen here in this video, and now the faucet, I want to talk to you about the faucet here. I'm an advocate, and those of you who follow me here know this, of using a cleaner, sleeker, lighter faucet, one that even has a filter in it. Obviously, it's a higher added value, it costs more. Other people have already replied to me here saying they like the gourmet faucet. There's no problem with that. In my current project, I would recommend you use the smoother, cleaner, simpler faucet. I'll even leave some links to a few models for you down below in the description, okay? Here in the video description. Now, there's nothing wrong with using a gourmet faucet. If you like it, think it's cool, think it's functional, there's no problem at all. But I prefer using a simpler faucet for one main reason. Actually, there are several, okay? There are some advantages and disadvantages to the gourmet faucet, okay? Among them, the advantage I see in the gourmet faucet. It has a good reach, it comes with a sprayer and all, it's going to work really well. Disadvantage, it's very big. A gourmet faucet is usually large and can overpower your decor. Some materials will rust easily if you don't buy good quality ones, right? Because it's a big faucet, if you install it directly on the sink, it will need maintenance sooner because it shakes a lot due to its size. Is that right? So a cleaner, lighter, simpler and smoother faucet, I think, will work much better compared to a gourmet faucet. If you have or want to install one, that's fine. All right, guys? So here they are. Look, 15 tips actually, right? It's not even 10, it's actually 15 that you can have there in your kitchen. Functional tips that will make your kitchen work well in your daily routine, in your use there in your kitchen. Some cheap items that you can save money by buying, and some of them here for you to already use when you're setting up your kitchen, all right? So I hope you enjoyed and liked these items here. If you enjoyed it, liked it, and you're not subscribed to our channel yet, go ahead and subscribe, all right? The links to some of the products I mentioned to you are in the video description here, and I'll see you in our next video. Take care.